love your music. I've known about you for some time, but for people
Mm.
that really aren't maybe familiar with your musical journey or the fact that you are from Oregon, which is so cool on my bucket list to go there. Um, Give us kind of the cliff notes of how you ended up in the music business and how the music bug kind of took a good bite out of you.
Yeah. So, I mean, like most musicians, at a very early age, I just had the inclination, the passion for music.
Yeah.
At 2 years old, my parents said I was singing and dancing. And shortly after, when I turned like 4 or 5, I started putting talent shows on in our living room and making cute little notes for my family, putting in their mailbox, like, come to my house at 7 o'clock and just watch me put on a new song I wrote for you. So it started at a very early age, the passion of it. And my parents did a really good job of noticing that. As a mom, I can see where it's like, okay, your child has a talent, but do I am I just like biased and I think that she's super talented because I'm your parent, or does she really? So they did a really good job of putting me into that competitive field with, they would take me to karaoke competitions, they would take me to fairs, talent shows, and they would really let me fail. And, like sometimes I would win, sometimes I would lose. And those years were really crucial for me developing. There are some failures to this day that stick with me back in the day. Somebody telling me, I remember one time somebody was like, don't shout when you sing or something like that. And I remember hearing that and being like, really at the time beat down by it. But now I'm like, well, I'm actually glad that they said those things because it made me work harder on making sure that they knew that even though I was singing a very powerful note, it was still musical. It wasn't shouting. So it's one of those things that I'm very glad for the failures, the haters early on in my career, or not career, I guess, at the time. And then in high school, I had a great mentor and teacher. He was a uh, primarily a jazz musician, but he taught the choir and he saw something in me and he brought me to competitions, played piano and accompanied me, and I would win a lot of them in middle school and high school. And my parents were like, okay, there's something to this, but I'm from a really tiny little town where it's easy to be a big fish in a small pond. And so you don't really know if your kid's, very talented until you get out kind of in the real world. And so we did just that. We made an audition tape for college, and my alma mater, Linfield University, they saw my tape, and I was singing Tower of Power song, Nick Gillette, and then also Aretha Franklin, Respect, two different, very big songs. And it landed me a scholarship for college. So, in college,
Your parents are like, okay, we weren't biased. Like, this is legit. Yeah.
yeah, thank goodness, right? They're like, we didn't waste all this time and money.
Yeah. Right.
But yeah, so, going to college was a really big moment for me to hone in, develop my craft, to learn some technicality things with my instrument that really helped me later in life, and also to sing more healthy and to develop my sound a little more. I will say that at first it started stripping my sound because when you study classical, they do like to strip you. They want a very round mix sound, and as you know, in country music, you need to lean into that belt. They want you to sound like you're talking singing most of the time. So
Yeah.
I
Yes.
started to lose that part of me. Um, and thank goodness I was able to, by my sophomore year, the light bulb moment went off when I was like singing a country song, just not the way I would want to sing it. And I just noticed, I was like, this is my classical training really interrupting this. And so, I made a point to my college to be like, hey, if you guys can't bring in some programs that help me and what I want to do and where I want to focus, then I have to leave. And Linfield University in McMinnville, Oregon, they're amazing. They brought in a program for me. They let me major in specialty in my own field. Yeah. And pop stylings. And it was so great. I feel very fortunate for that. But so did that. And then during the summers, obviously, I was a broke college kid. So I came back to my hometown, Brookings, Oregon, tiny little town on the coast. I'm from 4 generations of commercial fishermen. So that's all we've done. Yeah, that's all we've done my whole life. And that's all I've, grown seeing is
Do you like to
fishermen.
eat fish?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, you do. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. My mom doesn't,
Yeah.
but I do.
Wondered if
Uh,
like being around all of that, you're like, no, no longer. Yeah.
you'd be surprised. There's a ton of fishermen that don't even really like fish.
Like
But they
fish.
love
Yeah.
the thrill of it, you know?
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, I would come back during the summertime and I would like help bait on the boat. I would take some of our seafood to farmers markets, like anything I could do to make ends meet, to make some money, because the only other thing I knew of was fishing and music. Like those are the two things that my life has always had. So I did that for a while. And after college, I graduated and I got the opportunity to open up for a Grammy Award winning country music star, Gretchen Wilson. Gretchen was my role model growing up. If you were to ask me who I wanted to be like, sound like, all those things, I would say her, because she
Oh,
sang
yeah.
things. She would be like edgy and ballsy like a man, She would
She
say
was
things.
so different. I mean, I think you and I are around the same age, and I felt like the females growing up, don't get me wrong, I loved the females growing up in country music, like, wow, holy cow,
Yes.
especially like,
Yeah.
that late '90s, early 2000s, but I felt
Amazing.
like everything was so polished, everything was in a box, there really wasn't there was kind of things you could say and you couldn't say, and I remember when Gretchen Wilson came on the scene, and I was like, "Holy
She was
crap."
like, boom. Yeah.
Like, and it was just, my family is from a small town, 5 generations of farmers, and it was just so funny because she reminded me of, like, half the people in my family, specifically my Aunt Wanda. I'm like, "Oh my god, if my Aunt Wanda were still alive and a country music singer, like, this would be her." So, I think it's
Yeah.
just so fun and powerful that you connected with her, especially, like, coming from your classical training, being like, that's not what I wanna be," and then, like, really having this mentor who was also kind of breaking the mold. So talk to me a little bit more about your time with Gretchen.
Yeah. Meeting her, like you said, I felt like, man, I know this woman already. I felt like she was one of my aunties, like one of my cousins. And we connected right away. Like we were out back after our show that I opened for her. We were out back drinking Jack Daniels, taking dips, like singing. And I grew up on fishing boats. Like, come on, like I can hang with the dudes. And she was that kind of girl too. There's not very many of them. So it's really nice when you can find one, because you're just like, but she's still a girl's girl, and I am too. So it was one of those things. I felt like right away I had found a best friend. And I hope that she thinks the same, because she is one of my best friends. So, but yeah, like my time with her was so great. She really saw something in me right away. She gave me an opportunity to come out to Nashville, meet with her, show her my music. And so as any young aspiring artist would do, I took that opportunity. Like I went into a studio, dropped like $2,000 to record an album, like, in Oregon at the time. That was like for me a lot of money. And now I'm like,
That's a lot of money regardless. Yeah.
well, now I'm like, that'll give me a song.
Yeah.
So,
Right. Right.
but so yeah, I did a whole album of everything I'd ever written before. So I sold a bunch of Dungeness crab, albacore tuna, salmon. I like literally was like, Dad, like I was taking like scrappings from the boat. Like, I need money. I need to go to Nashville. And
Yeah.
so I finally saved up the money. I wrote her an email. I was like, hey, I'm gonna be in Nashville like in 2 weeks. And I had sent her a few emails prior to that, and she, she's a busy lady. She didn't respond, but I was persistent, but I was not annoying. And I was, I just kept on it.
Balance. I get it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and I must have just hit her on a good day, and she was like, "Oh, wow, you're coming. Okay, well, here's my address." And I'm like, "Oh my god, I'm going to Gretchen Wilson's house. This is awesome."
Yeah. We're not like
So,
meeting at a coffee shop. I'm coming to your home. Yeah.
well, she had a home studio, so she did business. Yeah, and I'm sure she wasn't scared of me,
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I love it.
that woman isn't scared of many people. But yeah, so I saved up a lot of money, and she didn't know it, but I was just going to move, because as soon as back up, we visited, we flew in, I got to see her place, her studio and all that, and play her my music. As soon as I landed in Nashville, I knew this is where I want to be for the rest of my life. This is where I want to die. Like, this is it. Like,
Bury
I'm
me in the
sure.
Cumberland River. Here we go.
Woo! Yeah.
Right.
But seriously, I'm sure you felt the same way too when you landed. It's like, man, I just felt like these are my people. And I decided that I was moving. So literally I toured apartments that week. I was like, what could I afford? And at the time, I had a great support system. I mean, half of my family didn't want me to go, and tried to talk me out of it. And the other half was why they were wise, and they knew that I'm stubborn. And when I have my mind set on something, I'm going to do it
There was
regardless.
no
So
talking you out of it. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And, about 2 months later, I was packed up. The car was so packed full with my piano and my clothes and my things that you couldn't even see out the back window, like
Yeah.
that kind of packed. And drove all the way 4 days across country from Oregon to Nashville. And I just took a risk. And that risk, wasn't, no promises were made to me. Gretchen didn't say, she would sign me, which she later did. She didn't say that she would take me on tour, which she later did. I just had a feeling in my gut that God put this mission in front of me and he wanted me to do this. And I took that leap of faith, and thank goodness I did. Yeah. So I spent the next 5 years touring with Gretchen, creating this awesome album that you'll eventually hear me release in the next year, in 2025. And, just became really close friends and mentor. Gretchen became my mentor, one of my best friends. She's now the godmother of my child, speeding forward a decade. And
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, that's kind of where we're at right now. I feel so grateful to have a story like that. Like, no offense to anybody that had a viral video or got famous because a business suit record exec believed in them. Like, that's awesome. But like, my country music hero believed in me
Yeah.
and gave me an opportunity, and that's why I'm a country music artist.
Yeah,
So
and they say don't meet your heroes. Maybe you should meet your heroes because then you might end up on a different path. But I want to talk to you about your song Dress Blues. I know you have a really strong tie to our veterans. I know you have been laying wreaths and just really are a patriotic person, and kudos to you. I think that is something that is really missing in our country is, honoring those people that make the ultimate sacrifice. So kind of where were you at headspace wise when kind of Dress Blues kind of came to you?
yeah, I'm a military spouse. My husband just got out of the military, and he spent almost 10 years. He was a Green Beret at 7th Group Special Forces, the Army, and he was a captain. I got to, go through the entire journey of his career where he was, first lieutenant, second lieutenant. He dropped his packet and applied for selection. He got accepted. He became a Green Beret. I got to be his partner through all that. And in
Wow.
seeing all those, in seeing that journey of his, I always had this song idea in the back of my head, you know, because the dress blues uniform, I would always take it to the dry cleaner. I would always make sure his patches and everything were on correctly. It was just such a big deal, that uniform. And so, that always stuck with me as a creative, as a writer. I think that we can't turn it off in life. We are literally going through life being like, that's a song, that's a song, that's a song. And it always felt like it was a song from the beginning, but it took, going through getting married to my husband, him wearing his dress blues uniform. And then it also took us going through losing friends and burying them in their dress blue uniform. So I think after seeing all that, seeing the evolution of the uniform itself and the meaning of it in such a big way through life and death, it was just undeniable. So one night I woke up out of the middle of the night. I was in a deep sleep when I woke up, and the song was just fully written in my head. It was insane. It was like the song had written itself, maybe somewhere in the back, or maybe God had just had it and then,
Yeah.
yeah, just made me the vessel. I'm not sure. But when I woke up, I had the melody, I had most of the lyrics, everything insane. So I got up out of bed, ran to my writing room, got the guitar and piano out, and this song was was done in 45 minutes, which I'm sure if you know, most songs are
That's
written.
not the case. Yeah.
Yeah, most songs either are written, it takes a really long time, or they just happen and they work.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like very blessed that I was the vessel that God decided to give that message through. And seeing that song, you're right, that song has already been so impactful in communities of like Gold Star families. We just spent the weekend laying wreaths for Wreaths Across America. I got to sing that song in Long Island at the National Military Cemetery, and I got to sing that song in front of Gold Star families, and there's no greater honor for me, because that is their story. It is the
Mhm.
story of a spouse that has lost her husband to war, and it for me, I'm grateful that I didn't live through the end of that song. The beginning was my story, but the end, fortunately, and unfortunately for a lot of people, it ends sad, but it does show us the sacrifice that it does take to keep this nation free. And I think that we lost that for a long time. Like, you
Yeah. People
know,
forget about that.
it really is hard when you're a military spouse and you see, like, right after my first child was born, my husband left for deployment, and I had to do that alone. But that's what it takes to keep this nation free and to keep our freedom safe. Like, people don't understand that. And right now, people don't understand that because a lot of people around right now didn't go through 9/11, didn't go through
Mm-mm.
all the crazy wars that we had had. I mean, they went through, Iraq and all that, but it's just hard. I think we've lost sight of patriotism, and I'm proud. I'm so proud to be an American. So I feel very blessed to have written this song, and I hope it touches many people, and it's something that can heal a lot of people.
I love it. I love that the dress blues almost became like the character. You know what I mean? The narrative, like the main character of the story. But I want to talk to you about being a proud American. You wore something super cool on Thanksgiving. I don't want to be the one to tell people. So first of all, singing the national anthem at an NFL game, super cool. Singing the national anthem on Thanksgiving Day at an NFL stadium, even cooler. Singing the national, doing all. But tell us a little bit about what you were wearing. And I think it's just so special. And I wanted to talk about dress blues and then go into this because I knew your backstory as being a military spouse. So I'm going to let you tell the story because it's just so cool.
Yeah, so I was super honored to be asked to sing the national anthem on the Thanksgiving Day game from the Green Bay Packers. Oh my gosh, how
Unreal.
cool. Yeah, bucket list moments. I also just am so honored and beside myself that they would even think of me, to have me sing it for them in that huge game. I remember watching Aretha Franklin sing it, which, as you know, she's a huge role model of mine. So, yeah, I decided when I got asked to sing it, I got to wear something show stopping, but very patriotic, because I just was like, this is the time, man. Like, I want to show that I'm proud of our country and that I love my country. And so I got together with Holly Stocks, who's an amazing Western model in Nashville, Tennessee, Western cowgirl model. She's absolutely stunning. She has the best outfits ever. Everything she wears, I'm like, can I buy that?
Raid your
So
closet. Yeah.
yeah. So she did. She let me come over and raid her closet, and she dressed and styled me. And as soon as I saw this American flag leather jacket in that closet, I was like, that's it. It took 2 seconds.
Yeah.
I was like, that's the jacket. And she's like, oh yeah, girl, you got to wear white leather pants with this. She gave me some boots to wear with it. Dan Post ended up sending me some boots and sponsored me, which was great. Dan Post boots. And that leather jacket, later come to find out, is the same jacket that Lee Greenwood wore when he sang God Bless America, or God, yeah, right?
Yeah, I think that's right.
God
Yeah.
bless the USA. God
Yes.
bless the
Yes.
USA.
One of those.
And yeah, to me they're synonymous. But
Yeah.
he it's not his jacket, which I thought it was at first. I was, because they're really good friends with him.
Yeah.
And I was like, is this his actual jacket? Which honestly, I don't know. It might be. I'm gonna ask him. But it is the same exact jacket that he wore for, I think it was the 1994. It was one of the championship baseball games. So I'm like, How amazing is that, that I got to wear the same jacket? So I did like a side by side picture collage because I'm like, and I
How
was
can
gonna be
you
like,
not? Like, I think you should frame the side by side like that. And like, what are the odds? Like,
I
and you
know.
looked so phenomenal and you
Thank
sounded
you.
so phenomenal. But
Thank
I
you.
know before we wrap up here, you have some really fun news for us. Something big and alive is coming in 2025.
Literally, besides all the new music that I'm about to drop, you are the first person I have publicly told this to. I am almost 5 months pregnant.
Congratulations.
Thank
So,
you.
talk to me about balancing I feel like, let me word this right. Talk to me about balancing motherhood and chasing your dream and kind of setting this example for your children that you can do both. You don't just have to be a mom. You know, I mean, that's your greatest identity and probably your favorite identity, but you're also this singer. So kind of talk to me
Mhm.
about how you balance all of that. And then obviously that example, that dream chasing example you want to set for your kiddos.
You just gave me goosebumps when you said it like that. So thank you
Good.
for,
I'm glad I took a break and like
yeah,
my thoughts and then said it. So it came out
yeah,
more
you really
eloquently.
did. And you, the way you said it was it's very honoring the way you said it. I think that you should show your child your true self. And I think that you should show your children how to chase your dreams, because then they're going to figure that out earlier and they're going to chase their dreams. It is hard. It is so hard. The times where we've, had to sleep in our touring sprinter van with her on the road, or she gets sick, we have to find a doctor, or something happens and I'm pregnant and I got to deal with, being a mom to a 3-year-old, but then also I'm pregnant and I'm nauseous and I don't feel good. Like there's so many things that you have to balance that I never thought about previous to having a family. But I will say, like, even Gretchen Wilson said this to me before I had Ozzy, my first child. And she was like, you think that you're fierce and unstoppable now? Wait till you become a mother. She's like,
There's a
yeah,
song right there.
I
There's
know.
your
Oh my
song. There's
gosh.
your next song.
Hey, we need to write it together.
Oh, girl, you don't want me songwriting. You just want me talking to you. My
You're
choral,
like, but give
my
me some
choral
credit.
director at church told me to find another passion. So I do not sing. My grandmother, beautiful singer. My aunt's beautiful singer. Me, I break glass and make cats go away.
But
So
we also need people like you in this industry to make people it keeps everything going round. Like I
well,
need
thank
you,
you.
you need
I
me.
figured I knew I'd end up in music eventually. I just knew it wouldn't be on the Broadway stage like
Yeah.
I had envisioned when I was 3. But yeah, talk to me a little bit more about how you want to inspire other musicians, especially other country music mamas that like this is doable. I feel like so many people are like, well, I'm a mom now. I have to give up that side of me. And you clearly are not.
Yeah, no, I think that, I'm not going to lie to you. It is harder. It is harder to do it, but you can make it work. Like you don't have to give up. You don't have to say, oh, well, I did that before I had a family. Why? Like, why do we give up on those things? Show your kids, okay, this is what hard work looks like. I'm going to take care of my family and make sure they're all good first, and that's the number one priority. And then mama's job comes next. And, we're just going to wake up earlier in the day. We're going to get our workouts in at 5 a.m. instead of 12 p.m. We're going to bring you to daycare for 3 hours a day because, for one, I want you to socially integrate with other kids, but also I want you to be able to have that time away so I can get my work done. You can make it happen. It is just, it's harder. But I think that, when you like, I'm twice the artist. My career is twice as big as it was before, actually 3 times as big as it was before I had a family, because now I got my husband behind me. He's helping do some booking, tour managing. He's a bull in a china shop, but he, he also is free security. I have a green beret on my, and it's just, man, it's so worth it. If you can make it happen, it's so worth it. And And I don't really understand how people seem to think that your fans don't want you to have a fulfilling life.
Yeah.
I think the fans want to see that. They want to see you grow. They want to see the different sides of you, because then when they become a mom, they're like, oh, Jesse put out this song this year that I can really relate to because we're both moms. Or I went through a miscarriage. Jesse put out Rainbow Lullaby, and that really helped me in hard times. I think it made me a better songwriter, it made me a better artist, and it made me way more fearless. Now, if somebody says something, crosses me, does something that I don't like, I'm not afraid to say no to people. I'm not afraid to not take opportunities, because I'm like, no, there's not even a question. Like, that's not good for me and my family, or that's not good for my career. And so it almost makes you more intentional, I would say.
I love it.
You're listening to